The views and opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners. Medical House presents Bermuda's most viewed and listened to talk show. The Daily Hour starts now.
It's Tuesday, the third day of November. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House and Windows. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Carlos Zool and Sherilyn Pringle. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, share the link, start a watch party, just get the conversation out there to your network. It's election day in the United States, and what a day this could be for so many. The daily play is going to be what is it? What's today?
History.
Geography.
Remember,
Yeah, well, we're remembering, yeah.
we're all over the place. Yeah, we're all over the place. Yeah, remember when thing, history. So yeah, we'll get to the conversation about the U.S. election, but what a day it's going to be. I don't even. You guys watch the news, right?
Yeah. You know what? I am so glad today is here because I am so glad today is here because I haven't been sleeping because it's just so much information and so much what if, and what if this happens and what if this happens, and then listening to all the pundits and the legal minds, and we've gotten to meet so many great minds through this entire process, especially Black women and Black men. And I'm just excited about tonight and about the next until January 20th.
Well, I hope your enthusiasm remains after the results come in.
Meanwhile, Jamal, I'm making space for your host here to come live with me, because if that man wins again,
well, I mean, you got Boris. I mean, it's really not there, to be honest. But we'll definitely get to the conversation with the U.S. election. A lot to talk about. I especially want to focus on the most hated and targeted group in these United States of America, Black men. It fascinates me how people can literally, especially Black women, who jump on this liberal agenda and target, like, if Trump wins, then Black men are to blame and this and that. Folks, everyone runs around talking about using common sense. Well, if anybody had any goddamn common sense, they would totally understand that's one of the smallest voting groups in this country. To blame and use them as a scapegoat is to do exactly what the system wants to happen. So we're going to focus on removing the idea that Black men are the reason you don't get your way from your mind, hopefully by the end of this show. Because at the end of the day, you cannot blame a minority of people, be it Black men or women, for the results that you don't like. If anything, there's another group that claims they're minority, white women. Those are the ones who have more of a say. Not probably, going off the top of my head, 3% of 13%. So we'll get there. We'll talk about that. Job categories, guys. You guys see that report yesterday in Bermuda?
I did.
And you know what, Jamal? After it was sent, or I saw it, I made my comments. I actually went back and thought about it, and This is just window dressing.
Mm.
This isn't anything really seriously because all they've done is taken things that were in other categories and shoved them up into closed categories. But if you're not impacting renewals,
Well, no, I was waiting because I was wondering in our chat. So we have a daily hour chat group, folks, and I was like, no one picked that up in this group. And I had it right. It says it should be emphasized that this moratorium does not impact work permit renewals.
how do you get a job then? How do you get one of these prime jobs or any of these jobs that are held by foreigners if you're not saying, okay, anybody who hasn't renewed as of today, then you fall into this category. But all you've done is just basically, again, taken special category jobs and job categories with special conditions and shoved them up into closed categories. There's restricted categories also that have been just shoved up into closed categories. So it's nothing really new. It's just changing a category.
See, and I misinterpreted it because when I read that, that's what I thought, but I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. So I was thinking it was just people that are existing holders don't have to worry until it's time for them to go. Because I thought the other way, the way you guys saw it, I was like, but then what's the difference?
Well,
so I thought I was slow.
Read the entire paragraph. It says it should be emphasized that this moratorium does not impact work permit renewals. However, the government will continue its practice reviewing and scrutinizing work permit renewals to gain assurance that Bermudian workers are being treated fairly and being provided with adequate job opportunities in their own country. I'm sorry. When I read that first sentence, it's basically saying, like, I could understand if it says it won't impact people who are already in jobs. But once you say it won't impact work permit renewals, you're pretty much saying that, if Shar is on a work permit, it's not going to impact her because she's already here. No, here's where it gets interesting. And Elizabeth says, so what's the point? I missed that part. Well, this is it, because right now, do you really think many of these companies are going to be putting out jobs? They're probably fine. They're like, okay, cool. We just don't have to hire, rather than filling the position for Bermudian. So I don't know. It just seems, is it oxymoronish? Like,
it's like you're appeasing. You're trying to appease somebody. Who are you trying to appease? And my thing is, I use personal experience. I mean, when some of these employers, when they can't get who they want, then they all of a sudden don't need that person anymore. And I can go to the executive assistant, personal assistant. Those are the jobs that I have held previously. I mean, I've seen employers decide, I'll just use my one in the US. Whether or not it's against the rules or not, they will use their personal assistant that is living in the US to do their work. And forget the Bermudian personal assistants. You have some amazing executive and personal assistants on this island who have never been able to get into that job.
Were there any categories that you guys thought were missing? Because what stood out for me was accountant.
We'll definitely get to that. I want to hit Elizabeth, which is saying it's just a way to make it look like they're fixing the problem without actually fixing it. Sorry, you just said something, and it kind of goes along with this. And that's, who are they trying to appease? The easy answer is everybody. And one thing, when it comes to life, you can't please everybody. You can't please both sides. So in one respect, well, we don't want to upset the big man who's bringing the jobs to Bermuda by telling them that their work permit holder is not going to be renewed. And on the other hand, you want to make your base believe that you're doing something in their interest. But those smart enough in the base will understand that this does nothing to improve their opportunities to be hired. Nothing. So I think that's the answer to your question about appeasing. This legit comes down to trying to appease all sides. I see nothing about it, Carla, sorry.
No, I was saying, and that doesn't work, as I'm about to go into lockdown for a month.
Well, there you go. That's a perfect example. So I don't know. As far as job categories, journalist. No, this is where I probably differ with the majority of people. Um, I think you get into a very sticky place when you tell companies, especially that have relocated and are pretty much pumping money into your economy, who they can hire, and so on. You get in a very sticky place in that respect. Now, there's also instances. Let's say I'll use journalists since that's in there. Um, there were just recently some ads overseas online regarding journalists. Now, does this impact them? Um, is the pool, and this is a question, is the pool for journalists deep enough in Bermuda? So,
Nope.
are you going to say that, well, we're going to give them some training at workforce development or courses at Bermuda College, and that's going to do the job? So it's a lot of questions. It's not as cut and dry as people may think. And one thing I really want people to understand about jobs, right, is it's not the responsibility of an employer to, one, hire you and ensure that you're making money to pay your bills. If you're in a position where you need a job, is your responsibility as the employee to go in and do what's necessary so that you can make enough to pay for the livelihood that you believe you deserve. That said, this doesn't mean that they can treat you any way they want, but they only do, like a bad relationship, they only do what they're allowed to do. So if enough people stood up and acted against things, then things might change. But yeah, I just see it's very contradictory from what I read.
It was surprising actually when I actually sat down and looked at it, and then I said, wait a minute, because I know that there were other things. There was a small amount of jobs in the closed category to start with, like taxi driver and things like that. So then when I look deeper, it's like it's just moving puzzle pieces, but really I don't think affecting that many people, because some of the jobs that you want are going to be permit renewals.
Yep. Here's some conflicting views here. Specifically appease an IB, but then this says they are appeasing their base who takes everything at face value. And see, this is it. I think this is what Shari, one of you said, like, who are they appeasing? And here we have two different views back to back on who's being appeased. And the truth is they're trying to appease both. Remove yourself, remove your own politics. They're trying to appease both, and it doesn't work that way. I think Elizabeth legit was, what she said was just probably as simple as that. Like,
if immigration is truly doing their job, a lot of these positions that are in closed category wouldn't even need to be in closed category, because Bermudians should be doing these jobs. So to me, when the permit renewal comes up, hopefully immigration is going to do what they're supposed to do, which is look for the qualified Bermudian and question why, or question the employer. Did you get any applications from Bermudians? Because a lot of times we do apply for these jobs, but for some reason, we're not qualified because of that little sentence they've put in the ad that meets the requirement for the person they currently have. So I think that there needs to be more work done reviewing who's applying and how they're trying to eliminate Bermudians but the 1 to 41. I mean, most of these jobs should be held by Bermudians anyway. So I don't know. It's I don't like feeling like the wool's being pulled over my eyes.
I disagree. I believe the job should be held by Bermudians that can do the damn job. I don't think it's just Bermudians. I think, I want to go to the commenter because this is a space we're in. The pool is almost non-existing for local journalists in Bermuda. This is true.
For years and years.
This is true.
And why is that though?
Well, one of the reasons is people think it's a low-paying industry and the opportunities just are not there. So go ahead, Carla.
And it's also almost treated the same as a trade. I mean, like I said before, when I went to uni in 95 and came back ready And they laughed at me. You went and got a degree in journalism? So it's almost like a trade where everyone's telling their kid, when I say a trade, like a blue collar trade almost, because everyone's telling their kids to be accountants and lawyers and actuaries, etc. Nothing against those. But like a carpenter, like a plumber, these jobs are needed in Bermuda. But when you're telling your kids, and some parents do, that the jobs aren't viable, then why would they want to do it? So it's interesting. I even saw a PR practitioner on there, and that made me smile. Like, really? Okay.
Well, interesting times. Glenn O'Chase says currently the private sector wins out the golden rule. Who has the gold rules? RE the jobs. Do me a favor, anyone like Mr. Glasgow, please speak on what you're speaking about. We don't know what you're talking about when you say I think that you're oversimplifying the issue. What in particular? More details. Shakira Richardson says, or they hire or discourage one until one quits. I agree with Sherry Lynn. Not sure why intern was on that list. Why would an intern? So this may have been the thing that I experienced. We're going to go to the news in a second, folks. I know that some hotels in particular may do programs where they have interns come down for the summer or season. I'm not sure if all of them do it, but I knew a couple when I was in tourism did. So it could be that, like, where people with their colleges, they come down and intern at not front desk, but they may have a job in the hotel as part of credit. So that could be that, Elizabeth. I'm not quite sure. Journalism is not perceived as a sexy job. This is most disappointing. Here starts the talk about both sides of the mouth. And before we head over to the news, they bring you in for interviews, sign paper, and they present 20 to immigration. Immigration never follows up with interviewing. Interesting. Well, job categories, Bermudians, always a controversial topic. Carla, are you ready for the news?
Yes, I am.
All right, so we're going to go to the news. We'll continue a bit of the job category conversation. Sure, a lot of people have to, a lot of you have stuff to state on that. And also, it is election day in the U.S. And I'm going to start calling it blame the smallest groups of people for not getting the result you want, because that's what I'm reading all over social media. Blame the black man, blame the black woman. Nah, look closer to him or the
I
mirror.
haven't seen that.
A veteran waiter at Fairmont, Southampton, forced to sleep rough after he was ordered to quit staff accommodations almost 2 weeks ago, said the way he was treated was inhumane. According to the Royal Gazette, George Yu, who had worked at the resort for a decade, said he spent a night on the streets after he was evicted from his room. Mr. Yu added he had begged to be allowed to stay in his room an extra 3 days before his flight back to Philippines last Tuesday. He said he only had $10 left in his wallet and ended up sleeping at the Hamilton bus terminal. He added he asked hotel management for an advance on his redundancy payment not due until November 20th to tide him over, but was refused. Mr. Yu, who has worked for the Fairmont chain for 30 years, said, instead of helping, I was treated humanely, stripped of my dignity. But Kieran McDonald, the hotel's general manager, insisted sufficient notice was given to staff. He said staff had been notified on September 23rd that the hotel, hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, would have to close in a month. He added, we made several attempts over the next month to reach out and continue reminding them. I can assure you that all of our in-house colleagues had somewhere to stay when they left the hotel. Shortly before 6 a.m. yesterday, police received a report of a robbery at the Summer Supermarket in St. George's. It was reported that a male entered the store, brandished a firearm, and demanded cash. The suspect is described as being 5'9". He was dressed in all black with a black mask covering his face. The suspect made good his escape on foot along Duke of York Street with a quantity of cash taken during the incident. Investigations into this matter have begun, and the Bermuda Police Service urges anyone who may have information to contact them on 211 or the main police number 295-0011. Meanwhile, CNN reporting President Donald Trump closed out his bid for his second term with a false warning that cheating in the key state of Pennsylvania could lead to violence in the streets. It was his latest attempt to tarnish the integrity of an election clash with Democratic Joe Biden that nearly 100 million Americans have already validated by casting early votes in the middle of a pandemic. Trump's inflammatory behavior threatened to exacerbate already fraught national tensions among fears of civil unrest that prompted businesses in some cities to board up their premises. Trump will spend election night behind a high iron fence that is now surrounding the White House. Jamal, today is a very special day, and it made me think of you because it's so sweet. You know what today is?
What's Sweet Candy Day or something?
Sour Patch Kid Day. No, it's Candy Day.
Really?
It's Candy Day.
Wow.
Go ahead.
He knows his sweet. If there is one day that we always look forward to, it's Candy Day. After all, who doesn't love the excuse to eat as much candy as they want? We hope your sweet tooth is ready for this one. Whether you are a fan of soft candies, the sour type, hard candies, or any sort of treat, you'll be able to enjoy sweets galore on Candy Day. Sounds pretty good to me. You can even use this day as an opportunity to try any candies that you haven't had a chance to experience yet. Hopefully, Brittany will have her first candy today. Turning to weather, Bermuda's high today was expected to reach 70, 58 in Washington, D.C., and 48 in Warrington, UK. And don't forget, Medical House is your number one source of PPE supplies, masks, face shields, disinfectants, sanitizers, glove gowns, no-touch thermometers, and so much more at the lowest prices. Visit Medical House today at 22 Mill Reach Lane in Pembroke. And on a programming note, don't forget to tune in to the full100radio.com tonight for Nighttime Jams, featuring some of your favorite romantic classics. That's your Daily Hour news break.
Yeah. Did you say that the president's going to be like behind extra fencing or something tonight?
It said Trump will spend election night behind a high iron fence that is now surrounding the White House.
First bunker boy. No, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Talking about this.
Good day, Medical House, Doris speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare.
I found myself being a caregiver. Even though I was a nurse, I still needed help on, what was available in hospital beds and all that kind of equipment, and I knew where to go. I went to Medical House.
Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products. These same professional quality products are available to you for home health care.
I was very pleased with Medical House and the help they gave me when I most needed it.
Your experience with Medical House is about getting your needs met, but we also try to provide knowledge to help you through whatever you're experiencing.
Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door.
I would recommend them to anybody.
Call or visit Medical House today.
We've already sung the praises of Welch's famous grape juice, so healthful and refreshing, a truly great family favorite. So with the festive season fast approaching, remember to stock up on Welch's sparkling juice cocktails, flavorful and thirst-quenching, another celebration of the greatness of the grape. The Welch's White, Red, and Rosé are all wonderful on their own, but for a special seasonal treat, try Welch's sparkling juice cocktail in festive punch recipes, garnished with cinnamon sticks or fresh cranberries. All non-alcoholic and also festive. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Welcome back to the big show. It is the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House and Lindo's. Don't forget, you can catch us on Channel 82 if you have One Communications. Also, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You'll find a way to find us. And ensure that you share the conversation with people. Before we went to break, I was just kind of, surprised that there's going to be extra fencing at the White House, and I think people are saying there'll be boarding up in Philly and across the U.S. And it's just got me thinking that look, regardless of where you stand, you can think President Trump was a great guy that done something and it improved your life. If that's where you are, so be it, right? Many people just aren't there. But what really, I've seen people I used to work with when I was working at the country radio station in Rhode Island. And one guy in particular oh, forget the tweets and what he said and just focus on the job he's done. But that's part of the job he's done. I'm just not. You all know me. I don't take sides. I just don't. I've never seen a politician who has the interest of my black ass in mind when doing anything. That's just me being real. I could care less for politics and politicians. They don't care about us. But you are not going to tell me that a man who has been so divisive in every way possible and hasn't been shy about it, right? He hasn't been shy about it. He believes that his path to victory is to divide and incite hate. You can't tell me this is what's up.
It's really it's really amazing watching some of these interviews with his followers, with his base, and the way they answer questions, the way they process everything. It's like they've been given a hymnal and read it, and this is what you have to say. And some of it's been really amazing because he has divided a country. And I think what even some Republicans want is they want the country to not be so divided. And Donald Trump has clearly stated that he is only for his base. His actions have shown that he is only for his base. But overall, though, his handling of the COVID virus, it's not his fault, but his handling of it has been atrocious. Imagine if Donald Trump was in charge of Bermuda's handling of the COVID.
It's his fault, though, Sherry. I think the way that it's gone now is his fault because he knew. I know that you're saying he didn't create it.
The virus isn't his fault. The way he's handled it is totally.
This mess is his fault.
Yeah, his response to it. I wouldn't dare disagree. But again, I think there are people who don't see it as his fault. People see this as a, there are a lot of people who think this virus is going to go away as soon as the election's over. They believe this is something that's been created by the libs, as they say, in a way to get him out because they say the economy was doing well, right? Look, one thing I just don't know is we don't know. Tomorrow this time, we could be discussing two completely different extremes. The next 4 years with or the next 4 years without. We could be discussing a peaceful outcome or one of we never thought we'd see in our lifetime.
It's not going to be peaceful no matter what. There definitely is going to be unrest because that's what he is telling his people to do. And boarding up and all that stuff. I mean, there was already a barrier around the White House, from before. So now there's a wall. There's a wall in front of the barrier. So if you even go to visit the White House to see, I think they may have little peepholes or something because you really can't see it anymore.
And you're gonna tell me that this man doesn't realize how off he is. That wall has not, or this extra fortitude hasn't been needed all these years, and now all of a sudden in 2020, this wall is needed. That's an indictment on his character.
Well, that's what Joe Biden's been saying, Carla. Everything that Trump has been saying is going to happen if Biden is made president. It's happening in the U.S. under Trump's presidency. It's happening under him. So how can you think that it will continue if we change presidents?
Yeah, but his argument against that is that it's happening in liberal and democratic holds. That's been his argument.
Yeah, it's not though. Everything's happening everywhere.
I was watching the news before we came on, and you know that there are a bunch of people who thought that they voted absentee. They did mail-in ballots, and then they got calls in the last 24 hours to say, we don't have a vote for you. So people are now standing in these ridiculously long lines. It's like, what else can happen next? And then who's to say that then further on, these ballots are going, we found them. Now all your ballots are null and void because it's a double vote.
Like, but he's been setting that up, and he's been setting that up. And he said yesterday, right after the election is done, his lawyers and him are going. He has been setting up legal maneuvering after the election, based on by just letting people know that absentee ballots don't work, mail-in ballots don't work, despite him voting like that, despite the armed forces voting like that for years. He's completely planting seeds of distrust and things like that. So it's going to be interesting because they can already see how many mail-in ballots have come in, and it's quite impressive. Some states have more ballots, and more voting has happened than in 2016.
Yeah, it's some interesting stats. I want to hear from the audience. What's everyone's thoughts out there? What do you think the result's going to be tonight? Do you think that it will be a Trump victory or Joe Biden victory, and why? I predicted back in June or July that I think Joe Biden will win by a landslide. I know all eyes are on the great state of Florida. The elections are usually won or lost here, but I think Pennsylvania is a very interesting one to look at as well. Texas and Georgia, while they may be close, I do expect Trump to hold on to both of them slightly. They're going to be close.
I learned something interesting about your state this morning, Jamal, Florida. It was saying that the further south you go in Florida, the more northern influence it is because of all the northerners that come down to the south to retire. Mm-hmm. So I found that very interesting. So I'm like, but they're saying Pennsylvania is the state, and Arizona, because apparently Arizona's critical as well. Mm-hmm. So I hope that people take their voting seriously, because I don't know, you all know you laugh at me for my hunches. But when I woke up in 2016 and my daughter said that Trump won, I thought it was a joke. It's not impossible to happen again. So
not impossible, but his path is different than it was in 2016. His path is actually harder than Joe Biden's path. I mean, as long as Joe Biden keeps the states that Hillary Clinton won, and then maybe flips a couple that Trump won, his on route to a good victory.
I think the whole Hillary Clinton thing was very different as well. Mm-hmm. And she did not. Let's just establish something. She didn't lose because she is a woman. She lost because she was a bad candidate. Let's just honestly admit that. Now, popular vote, it didn't matter. That's not how this country works. It's electoral. But she was a horrible candidate. And when I say a horrible candidate, she had too much baggage. It was easy. And the other thing, and hopefully it doesn't cause Biden, she didn't fight fire with fire. When you're dealing with someone like Trump, you have to fight fire with fire. I want to touch on what Troy Glasgow said, and this is it right here. A landslide is needed to prevent any doubt. I totally agree. Like if Joe Biden can win Florida, Pennsylvania, and I think Michigan and Wisconsin are two ones that Miss Clinton lost, that people just felt she was arrogant. She didn't visit, right? If he can take those four, I think it will be no doubt. Renee Charlotte Simmons says there will be a Joe Biden victory, but Trump will go crazy. I don't think anyone is doubting that.
I mean, remember, we have to wait until, even if he loses, we still have him until January 20th, and he still will try. So that's why it's important for the Democrats to win the Senate, and they will maintain the House, I'm sure. But
I'm glad you mentioned that is it's like you need that for the next president. If it's Joe Biden, you need the Senate to make things happen. But I want to go back to your comment about Carla's comment about Florida. So Florida red because Cubans do not want communists. This is important. This is important because in Florida, that is one of the biggest bases in terms of the Latino vote. And Cubans have traditionally been Republican because they don't believe in the socialist and communist ways. And they've been sold the idea. If you look at some of the commercials that come on down here, it's pretty much like, oh, we're voting for Donald Trump because we don't believe in what's being sold by the Trump and fam, is that Biden and them are socialists and so on. Now, my history tells me that many of the Cuban Americans that are here were of the upper folk, and so they more believe in the Republican, I don't want to say values, but the way the Republicans operate. But to your point about New Yorkers moving down, it has heavy influence. So when you get to Palm Beach and more south, that's when you get a lot of the Northeast folks in these areas, so it can flip. Now, also keep in mind along I-4, that's where a lot of elderly folks, right? So the elderly folks have what? They've been impacted greatly by the pandemic, right? So again, that may go the other way in terms of how they vote. Again, Florida's hard to read. I'm telling you, man, it's hard. It's one of those things where if you place a bet, don't risk your house.
Did you hear on the news about how many people are betting, like in Europe, on this election, and like millions are up for grabs? They said millions are going to exchange hands for the Senate. They only need to flip 4 seats. They really need to only flip 4 seats and not lose any seats. And I doubt that they'll lose any seats. And so, I have my little handy dandy list of faces, and I'm just going to be watching to see 4 go, because it's going to be important to have a Democratic Senate if Trump wins again, election again.
I'm sure he probably has, although they said they weren't going to do it, I'm sure he has his tweets scheduled for victory, Kate, for any morning.
Yeah, 400 people in a room with him at the White House. That's what he's doing.
You know, when I was in the gym this morning, I was going on to watch YouTube, and first thing pops up. Basically, it was a commercial made for today. Hey, folks, it's that special day, blah, 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 blah. Mr. Trump talking to me. And I actually caught myself talking back saying, bro, I can't vote for you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking to the wrong person. Donna Ingham says, I think Biden will win. Florida has surprised me as Biden is ahead. Look, you know me, folks. When it comes to numbers, as much as I may want to agree with some of you, I cannot take like these numbers serious. I can't take these numbers serious. When it comes to elections, I'm a final result kind of guy. It really comes down to that. James Burt says, I think Joe Biden will win, and I'm hoping for a landslide. Amanda Kelly says the schools had mock election. My grand proudly stated her entire class voted for Biden. She then proceeded to schoolers. Now, what state is your grand in? Or I think
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay, interesting. Well, let's talk about Georgia, because I think someone mentioned in the comments about New Englanders moving down to Texas, changing things. Again, there's a lot of people that have moved south, and changing demographics happen with that. I think none of us in our lifetime, despite you all being on the elderly side versus me, right? Or we would see in our lifetime that you would see states like this flip. But this, to me, would be an indictment on President Trump not representing properly Republican values as they've been traditionally represented, more than anything, no?
He also insulted seniors. He really did insult seniors with some certain comments that he made about Joe Biden. I mean, you would think Trump was 60 years old or 50 years old, and Joe Biden was like in his 90s, the way Trump has acted.
What, they like 4 years apart?
They're like about 4 years apart, but he just totally insulted seniors, and the way he has handled COVID has been a detriment to his like from seniors. But so Florida is actually really one to watch, especially since it has 29 electoral votes. So everybody wants Florida. They say if Joe Biden gets Florida, it's pretty much a done deal, because Trump will have to do some serious gymnastics in order to get to his 270. So hopefully we'll know early, and they are saying we could know early, or if we don't, if it's really tight, then it could be a couple of weeks. It could be, and then you got the lawyers, and
again, that's why
landslide.
Daniel J. Wood says something interesting. I'm going to tell you why I don't agree with much of what he said here. There's no chance Biden wins. Don't believe the polls. More people are silent Trump fans than the media is led to believe. The bet makers have narrowed the odds significantly, and Biden is still campaigning on election day. They're both on election day. They both are. But this is where I disagree with you. I said to my wife and mom yesterday, I went to take Snow White to the doctor. That's my car, Snow White.
I was like, who's Snow White?
No way.
Like, because you don't have a dog.
That's my car. So I took my car to the doctor yesterday. And as I was driving, something has changed. 4 years ago, Trump supporters were silent. They didn't have flags all over the cars. Let's be real. They didn't. Over the last 4 years, they're not silent anymore, folks. They're out here showing you who they support and why. So I disagree in that respect that they're more silent. No, they're not silent anymore. They were silent prior to him becoming president. After he became president, they were comfortable in who they were and how they represented themselves. Just think of the amount of people that have become more brazen on social media. When you see cars, I mean, I can't tell you all enough. I have never, in all my years living in the US, seen people have these boat parades and on the side of the streets and cars up and down the street. Look what they did to the buses the other day. Trump, Biden, like this is not 4 years ago. These people are not silent anymore because he's made them comfortable and confident in who they are and how they believe what they believe they can get away with. So no, I would disagree with you a bit with that. As far as Biden has no chance, there's no chance Biden wins. I agree with you about polls. I don't take polls seriously when it comes to the U.S. election. I just don't. But in terms of Donald Trump winning this in the same manner that he won in 2016, there are things you have to take into account. And whether we like it or not, I think after tonight, if Joe Biden wins, I think even Hillary Clinton's most dearest supporters have to admit that she got it wrong. She got it wrong. Let go of she lost because she was a woman, but she got it wrong. There was no COVID back then. There was no reason she couldn't visit key states.
And that was part of her problem. She was complacent. And she didn't go to the places that were needed. And Joe Biden and his team are doing that.
Indeed. And also, I want to address this because I was going to say this. Incumbent president has also recently won multiple times. Oh, don't just because George Bush 1 was the last president who was one term, don't mean it won't happen again. Let's be real. Bermuda had their first one-term government in the OBA. I mean, some people would say no, they weren't, but they were. They were the first party to win this time and lose the next election, right? So it can happen, folks.
Yeah, Daniel. I was talking to my daughter, and I said to her, I said, this will be the first time that I can remember, besides the other Bush president, sorry to say it like that, because they usually win two. I'm like, I don't think Trump's going to win two. But she thought they had to do two because it's such a norm in her lifetime. You know, she's only 20, that they've all done two. But listen, guys, I might have to pull an all-nighter.
Before Bush won, I think Jimmy Carter was...
I think so, you know, in 1978, was it?
Before my day. Sorry. But no, I say that because it is rare. But never forget, you know, I haven't heard this discussed, and I guess it's just not even interesting. But remember, if I remember correctly, I was very young. But George Bush 1 said that he wouldn't raise taxes. It cost him, right? President Trump, let's just use something he said he would do before the last election and he didn't do. I'm going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. Simple things like that can make people turn against you. But to me, I think what people have touched on during this show that's been bigger than anything is the response to COVID. Regardless of whether you feel it's a real virus or not. Personal feelings aside. We haven't mentioned the Black Lives Matter stuff. We haven't mentioned the murders of young black men. We've specifically spoken about the response to COVID. Because let's be honest, the people who have been impacted by that in terms of large numbers, not percentage-wise, there's a lot of them in his base. Because, I mean, there's just so many more of them than there are black people.
I think people are still just realizing that blacks make up 13%. There's nothing much that we can be blamed for at 13%. Mm-hmm. So, but it's good that we show up because there are down ballots, and I mean, it's just not the presidents. It's not just the presidents. It's the down ballots, the Senate races, the local races, and all that stuff. That's where we are important, and that's where the vote actually counts. But make no mistake, if Trump gets back in, it's because of white men and white women.
Well, it's let me Stacey Patton. I'm not sure if any of you follow Stacey Patton. She's a professor at Morgan State University. But here's what she wrote yesterday. if Trump wins again, it will be white people's fault. The whites who vote for him, the millions of whites who don't vote, the white architects of voter suppression, the white judges who refuse to count ballots for whatever reason, and the white Jesus that won't take the wheel. This is important to share because Stacey Patton, if you don't check her out. She's very consistent. And again, I only try to, follow people that, stimulate the mind a bit. But what she's basically trying to say here, folks, is what Sherry just said. Do not blame black people for whatever the result is. Because I'll tell you this here. If Trump wins, it's so easy to blame black people. If Biden wins, you ain't going to hear a damn thing about black people. No, thanks to black people helped us. No, that's not how it works. 13% of those black people in the United States. That's just the amount of people there. Take into account the ones who can vote legally. Yeah, we're talking about age-wise, how many of them are legal age to vote. And then, remember, voter suppression, no one likes to talk about, is the criminal records on many of these black people that took away their voting rights. So we're talking I looked for it, but just couldn't find it in time for the show. But the percentage of black voters is very small. No, I'm not saying don't vote or it means nothing. What I'm saying is don't come pointing fingers at if people with the littlest opportunity to make the impact when you all out there after the last election talking about with your placards or whatever, talking about this is the first time in the U.S. where I have to fight in my life or what? Really? Black people been fighting their entire existence. Come on, man. Or what do we know? Beverly Joe Bell says this presidency has exposed so much. And then Kathy Brumby says, I can only feel sorry for Biden. Cognitive decline, doesn't remember what state he is in, what day it is. So who really end up president? Oh,
who said that? What?
Oh, okay.
That is actually a talking point, because if you want to look at cognitive decline, it's very obvious in Trump. The way last night he said something, and I was like, my head snapped, But this Trump has presented this thing where Biden is like failing and he can't remember things and this and that. And it's like, I haven't really seen that. I've seen the occasional flub, but I've seen it in Trump, where he'll start talking about one topic and go straight to another topic and totally lose his way and forget his words and fumble his words. Trevor Noah did an amazing piece on the words that Trump has just invented over the last 4 years,
But guess what? He's inventing it and it works for him, right? Robert Durham says many Republicans would rather see Biden win to get Trump out than they can get a good candidate in for 2024. I think that would be the smart thing to do.
Strategy.
Yeah, like the Lincoln Project. I'm with Robert. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they've been very against Trump, the Republicans against Trump, but that's not going to last forever. But they do have to decide what type of Republican Party they want, because what was talked about this morning is that there's a lot of some of the people that kept Trump around are still going to be in the Republican Party. And what do you do if those people? So they're going to have a come to Jesus moment after the election also.
It's an interesting day. I think an interesting day. How do you think like something like this impacts Little Old Bermuda, though? I mean, does the U.S. election really impact Bermuda and Bermudians? I mean, Bermudians are lapped up into it. They're very into it. Has Trump's presidency impacted us badly as a country? I mean, most Bermudians, in my opinion, when you look at Bermudian values, don't the majority of Bermudians support Republican values? So why is it they always seem to support Democrats in the U.S.? And when I say support Republican values, we're talking religion. We're talking, anti-liberal in terms of sexuality, right? If we're honest, Bermudians would traditionally be Republicans.
That rules me out.
No, I mean...
No, but that's a good analogy, though.
Yeah, Bermudians traditionally would support Republican values, but it's always interesting that so many Bermudians actually would be on Obama or Clinton and Biden. But I'm like, but again, I said it earlier. To most people, Donald Trump as president doesn't even represent Republican values in terms of the multiple wives and the, what I don't know,
Crassness.
prostitution.
Paying for sex.
Yeah, you said it better than me. Yeah. But that kind of stuff. So
Grabbing by the.
I was gonna say, please.
Again, all that stuff's not. Here's Kamiko Scotland says Trump is consistently stupid. I have seen Biden's decline, stress, or age. So again, this goes back to we discussed how does it impact Bermuda and Bermudians, right? But I've been very upfront about politics. Yesterday I called without apology. Both of Bermuda's, well, all of Bermuda's political entities trash. And I think when I look at the U.S. political sphere, I just don't see what's in it for Black people long term. I see people trashing and getting on Ice Cube for trying to lead a movement. Even what's the guy named Mike, Killer Mike, who's been a Bernie bro and so on. I do, Shari always says she applauds people for putting their name in the hat. I still don't, but I do applaud people who try to make moves and moves privately, even if it's working with politicians. Because at the end of the day, I feel like Black people, Bermuda and the US, legit give their vote up for nothing. Have traditionally given their vote for nothing. If anything, we should be commending Ice Cube, not ridiculing him. Because he pretty much went to both parties to basically say, look, what's the plan, right? But we have to have more of that. Using the local parties in Bermuda, we went to both parties about conscription. Oh, you don't want to play ball? Well, we ain't voting for you. You don't want to play neither? We ain't voting for you. This is what voting's about. Personally, I could care less about Donald Trump, Michael Dunkley, David Burt calling me a name. I care about the policies and legislation you put in place that impact the way that we are able to live and thrive. So for me, that precious vote, even though, and I repeat, I'm a stateless voter at this current time, that precious vote's going to stay in my pocket till somebody shows me why they deserve my vote better, more than the other person. Like, show me why I should vote for you, not based on history or a name they're calling. So all that said, regardless of the outcome tonight, what I'm going to continue to do is like I do in the Bermuda context. What are you doing to hold the government accountable? It's been over a month since the PLP has been re-elected, right? And although the House hasn't been in, are any of is anyone in their base showing what they've done in that first month? Come up with the school plan via education, added job categories, added a company from Pakistan and so on. But where's the report card? So this is about accountability for the vote. We have Dr. Claude Anderson and many others telling us, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to negotiate our vote. And if we fail to negotiate our vote, we're going to get less than what we deserve, man. Mm-hmm. Any final words on this topic, my friends?
See you in the morning.
Yeah.
Just, if you're going to follow and if you're going to try and understand, just make sure you understand what the Electoral College is and understand the states that hold the heavy numbers, because those are the states that are gonna be important to watch.
Interesting. Before we go to the Daily Play, Mark Phillips says, good morning, Jamal Hartman. That is the thing, fam. The Republican ideology does reflect a true Christian worldview. A true Christian worldview is based off of one command to love one another. Yeah, that's not the only thing, but he's right. And that's where I'm saying, like, Bermudians really do fit more as Republicans traditionally than they do liberals. So I always find it very interesting how majority Bermudians, especially Black Bermudians, support and I say majority Black Bermudians who don't align with liberal ideology support the Democrats. It's weird to me. Like, how could you vote down same-sex marriage in Bermuda and then support the party who's pushing for it in the U.S. like nothing else? Like, it's weird to me. It is very strange to me. Let's end up with these comments, then we'll get to the Daily Play. Robert Durham says, by the way, where's Canada to say he stepped down? Haven't seen or heard from him since hearing about the new OBA leader. Interesting. Maybe I'll text him and ask him if he has anything to say. Charles H. Jeffers, Jamel Hartman, I think you mean you're going to keep your vote until they let you. Yeah, Charles. You know how it is being us. Look, folks, you have to have the daily play. I got a couple of questions asking is, are we going to be doing something tonight? No. Not no all nighter. What we will do is we'll be back on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm sure this is going to be going on for a while, but we will be following it with all of you tonight. And make sure you follow our social media handles because it should be interesting. Shari, what you got for the daily play?
Oh, it's easy. It really is. Trust me. My question.
Basically.
When was the first U.S. election? What year?
When the U.S. go independent?
18. There you go. I failed.
1796.
No. 1776.
I was like, we're not going to get this, guys.
1785. I want to play Price is Right. Higher or lower?
It's 17 higher, but
1785.
Higher. George Washington.
Oh, 1796.
December 15, 1788. December 15, 1788.
Not ring a bell. So that was the first election?
Yes.
1788. Okay. When did the U.S. go independent? What year?
Oh,
okay. Well, that would have given me the hint. All right. So Carla and I both got a, what's that thing called?
David Michael Wilson got it right, actually.
That brother be out there Googling. Come on, man. He ain't got
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Carla, what you got for inspiration for us? We need some for today because
the vote is precious. It is the most powerful, nonviolent tool we have in a democratic society, and we must use it. The late John Lewis.
That's my cover page on Facebook today.
And I know Jamal disagrees.
Yeah, I disagree, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let the late John Lewis have his day. I'm going to let him have his day.
I knew he would disagree.
I know what he went through. I do disagree, though, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to let the people of the United States of America decide who's going to be the leader of their country for the next 4 years. We're going to watch closely and see, where this country is mentally.
Jamel, as they say, if it wasn't so valuable, they wouldn't try to suppress it. So it has to have some value to it.
Yeah, it's value in their system.
Yeah, well,
us voting in their system hasn't really truly brought any value for us. So for me, voting within their system is not changing anything for us necessarily. What we need is dismantle their system and build one that works for us. So as precious as the vote is, again, it's only precious within the systematic setup that exists for them to control and succeed. But again, the late John Lewis, this is his day. We're going to have a cheers to that one. Actually, you know what? Tomorrow morning, depending on what happens, I'm gonna have a green back on the show. I'm gonna have an early morning Heineken Zero. That's what I'm gonna do.
I'll go for a month, so I'll join you.
BYOB, Carla, bring you in beer. Look, any final words, Shari, before we head off?
If to my U.S. family and friends, vote, be safe.
Carla, what you got for us?
I actually want to extend my condolences to my mom. She lost her brother-in-law to COVID here in the UK yesterday, and now her sister and her niece and great niece are all fighting it. And literally within 4 days, their whole life shifted. So COVID is real.
Sincere condolences to your mom and your entire family. Definitely not the news we want to be hearing. Folks, thank you so much. Don't forget, we have the former police commissioner and senator Jonathan Smith joining us later in the week, as well as Reverend Dr. Maria Seaman. Until then, look, pay attention closely to what's going on today and tonight. It's going to be a long day. I don't think I have. Yeah, my office is closed today. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. But on that note, we appreciate you. We love you. We thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to discuss the results of the 2020 United States election. It's not just between Biden and Trump, but the Senate. This could be an election that shapes someone's life or all of our lives. Till tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House. All recorded episodes and highlights can be found at thedailyhour.com. Stay connected with us by following us at The Daily Hour on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.